Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. And the title is Planet Design and Solar Life Broadcasting Strategies. And so these are important ideas, but just to mention that this episode is a bit more free flow. Usually I brainstorm before I give the talk to a certain degree, but this episode seemed to be an interesting one that could have many pathways. So it's a bit more relaxed. I'm looking at the concepts with relatively fresh eyes, but I'll tell you what the concepts are. First of all, planet design. I was thinking about literally designing a planet. I was thinking about human beings design a lot of phenomena, and when you look at the planet, it seems to be part of a design process. I'm not saying this design process it should be given to a sort of personification attempt of the universe. I'm just saying that when we look at phenomena and phenomena with design, and anything that at least the conscious mind knows, if you look around you, most phenomena is designed through a process. That means this coffee cup in front of me, the coffee went into a process, the cup went into a process, the way that I have them both here in the same moment is a process. So there is a sort of design process to phenomena. And so I was thinking that if the world is a design process and we are we are conscious of design, we are conscious design. I came to this conclusion that the mystery of the world, I've written it here, the mystery of the world is the mystery of the unconscious design process. That means we are familiar with conscious design, but the before we were conscious, when we were trying to fathom the universe, there's different pathways. You know, two common ways that the reality, of course, is being seen is from a religious notion, and more common is the Big Bang. And both perspectives are very strange. You know, when you look at religion, first was the word, then there was the light. When you look at the Big Bang, it's not like it was just from nothing, it was that space was moving faster than light, it seems. Space is the only thing that can expand faster than light. Usually people are under the impression nothing can move faster than light. Well, guess what? Space can. So anyways, I looked at the world, saw it's a design, wondered about the design process, saw the various origin stories reality has from religious perspectives, a secular perspective, from esoteric perspective even. Now, planet design. We are wondering about the design of an unconscious process. When we look at it in regards to a scientific lens, I don't know which year it was, but it was with the Hubble telescope that we saw background radiation to the cosmos. Now, what does that mean? That means we saw something that could help explain this theory of the Big Bang, that the universe had in some sense cooled, and this is what's left of it. You know. to continue. So we can say to wonder about the unconscious design process. Well, the nature of a process is for it to be conscious. That means human beings to be aware of an unconscious process means you're technically not aware of it. You're aware of just movement. I mean, every human being can say life is like an event. In another talk, I had created this word, I called it the eventum. And then I called another particle, I called it an eventron. And the reason I created these words, because I got inspired by the atom, and I saw the concept of the atom, and I thought, when it comes to human psychology, I mean, in front of your eyes, when it's manifestation and physical reality, we have reduced it to particles. But then I looked at the human being and I looked at every memory where I had a sense of self. And it's not that when I have a sense of myself, it's just the self alone. Do you know when somebody tells you remember an occasion, you don't just remember that self, you remember the self with the setting it's in. To notice that in order an unconscious process is a movement that doesn't have the potential for meaning yet. But it doesn't mean there is nothing. I feel life does appear like a dream. People can doubt it, but we don't know the very origins and we don't know the far future. The origins, we have theories. We don't have technology, even though I'm saying this thing about background radiation. This is probable. It's like the best theory we have so far. The unconscious process, to see the world is an unconscious process. There's a huge chance that before it became a process, the unconscious was not defined by form. You see, we are creatures of design. Right now, everything I have to say, everything I can say is form limited, is design limited. That's the thing about language. It's a shape-oriented technology. If we were to consider that the planet has a mind, just like human beings, we see a body, and we say this body arose from the planet. It is a strange way of trying to attempt to consider if the planet could have had right now it appears that a local phenomena experiences, let's say a non-local experience, for example, through meditative practice or whatnot. But I feel it's the other way, where it's a non-local phenomena projecting locality. If it's non-local, that means it is not limited to form. It's an intelligence that is not limited to matter. The design of the planet is spherical. We creatures look at ourselves in the mirror, we don't see ourselves as spheres. But I feel that the mind has a spherical quality about it. That it's like a candela. It's like some dude putting a candle in a room and discovering a measurement. Anyways, guys, I'm going to put a pause on this planetary, on the design of planets, on this idea. There's more, but I got to figure out a way to share the internet. I'm going to go to the second part where I said solar life broadcasting strategies. This is an idea where when I noticed this idea, first of all, it is not that new. I think I noticed this idea a year ago or something. But this idea was very profound and very significant. That I was envisioning a period of, I would say, 3,600 years from now, a potential, just a potential reality. You know, it's as if nobody knows for certain, but if the mind tries, it can see something, you know? And I asked myself, let's say we became a Type 3 civilization. A Type 3 civilization in scientific circles is a civilization that can harness the power of its sun. Then I thought about an advanced civilization, an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. So what I'm saying is I thought about the evolution of the human species, and I thought about an extraterrestrial civilization, and I thought about the human intelligence reaching that point where a sort of problem arose, where I was thinking, if we were to, let's say we were an advanced alien civilization, we had found some pattern of life, and we wanted to broadcast, disseminate, spread, share life all over the universe. You know, one thing that's strange about about the universe, even solar system, I can say, is that there's a star in which it's throwing light beams everywhere. So I was suddenly thinking this idea that an advanced civilization might put the potential, the seeds of life in the sun. That's why I said in the title Solar Life Broadcasting, that the beams of the sun hold, they are the hands that sculpt intelligence. There is something about the sun that I thought about it, and I thought about it, I'm like, sure, if we become such an advanced civilization, why not find a way to work with the sun where life is being spread through the sun? That means imagine we were human beings, and this is pretty sci-fi, but I'm just envisioning like, okay, we're human beings, we've really advanced in our technologies, and we're like, all right, we want the whole solar system to have life and human beings being born all around the solar system. You know, imagine we don't like being alone, you know, in this Fermi's paradox. So what happens at that point, we would use the sun as a broadcasting tool. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, like, they're pretty deep. I mean, they say they're creatures living on the sun. You know, I hope those creatures have sun lotion. In my own science fiction, I've dedicated certain, you know, spontaneous chapters. The sun, for example, in my science fiction novels, is there's something called the Central Sun Legion. And the sun is like the police of the solar system. It's like the headquarters. It's like the police station of the solar system. And I thought about this situation that imagine other planets. Imagine all the other planets in our solar system. They were somehow habitable by other life forms, and they were like other civilizations around, other planets, other civilizations. We would notice the sun is what we have in common. So the understanding of light is what we may share with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Our use of light, our comprehension of it, even in our science fiction, hyperspeed and whatnot is our fantasy to go beyond that speed, you know? Uh, so that was the idea with the solar life broadcasting strategy of an advanced civilization or an extraterrestrial advanced civilization towards broadcasting at least the pattern for genetical life. I mean, I had this view that the planet, like when you look at the design of a planet, there's this idea that it was this smaller rock, and as there were collisions and whatnot, there was a gravitational pull, and this rock became bigger, 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 bigger. So imagine if I told you right now, what is the earth made of? Even though there's various cycles and whatnot happening, and when we go towards the center of the earth, we have this sort of huge core, temperature, you know, this heavy temperature, so very high temperature. And I'm saying this thing that when you look at the design of a planet, technically it's particles from everywhere in space. So I can totally see that the sun's light plus random particles just infused in the earth, leading to some unique combination. I feel light is information and oxygen, air, is information. People might feel like, oh, yo, Mr. Within, that's like, come on, man. But I'll tell you, there is something about breathing that it brings with it more than just, just a sensation. I can tell you that when a person notices their inhalation and exhalation, you'll notice your body, like ocean waves. The ocean waves are constantly hitting the sands. That means if you write something on the beach sand near the water hits it, smooths it out. And for me, especially when I speak, I notice it. I notice that every action of breathing is a subtle oscillation. Sometimes I feel human beings they're designed to be rhythmic creatures. I mean, look at your breathing, look at your heart, look at the design of reality. Look at even the system of our life where we wake up, we sleep. It's literally like the world is sleeping when you're. I say this playful thing, when the person sleeps, it's like the world is blinking. That means it's like, if somebody asks you what time is it in deep sleep, what can you say? If somebody said, who are you in deep sleep, what can you say? You see, so there are gaps in the conscious projection. This is why I feel, to some degree, we are a linguistic simulation. And in deep sleep, this simulation turns off, or the attention maneuvers to a different mode. I noticed something, that the biggest lie that I was told in my youth was that man had to be a singular image. That people would come and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was as if like, what? Is the person meant to be a painting on a wall for the eyes of others? Or is the person meant to wonder about who they are? It's like you're alive once. I love many people in this world, but I also understand that the opportunity to ask the greatest questions is once. That's why when I gave these talks, I decided not to hold back, because I realized the future generations are not going to hold back. In 1,000 years, so you know how many things are going to be different? You know, back in the day, people wore top hats. Now people don't wear top hats. If you wear a top hat, people are like, yo, man, what's wrong with you? But in the future, everybody might be a robot. And if you're a biological human being, people are going to be like, what's up with you, man? You think it's normal being a biological human being in a robotic society? You know? Who knows? Who knows how far reality goes? This is why any comment given to me at any moment in my life, I acknowledge it as having the bias of the era of that moment in history. You see, as far as I'm concerned, it's a brushstroke on a canvas where there's 8 billion other brushstrokes. And we are drawing our existence into being. And there is an ability to get a sense of your attention. Because when we think about the design of a planet, of course, we're not rewinding back in time and seeing the exact picture. We are theorizing. We are just like how imagination is an invisible room. That means if you were on the bus and there was someone beside you, and if you were imagining something, and you know, the other person was imagining something, you guys don't suddenly see each other's imagination. You know, like, I'm actually happy imagination is like a private room. You know. Do you know how ridiculous would it be if in all moments of my life where I saw very beautiful girls, they could see my thoughts? Do you know what I mean? So imagination is in its private room. Okay, that's a clue. That's a huge clue. That's one of the biggest clues, really. That there is an inner realm. And the inner realm, you gotta believe it or not, I know, you might have been that kid when you were younger in console or whatever, in certain games you chose the warrior, but now it has come to the era of the mage. Now is the archetype where the human mind no longer requires brute force. We passed the medieval. And now, as we gaze upon the future, we are the bringers of the dawn. We are the stories that in the future they may sing. There are some nights where I feel I am in the trenches of human confusion. I feel what I mean by that is that, like, see, if you are a selfish person, it's so easy to be happy. If you're just seeing yourself, super easy to be happy. Just go find a comfortable chair or something, you know? It's very easy to become yourself happy, you know, to make yourself happy. But I don't know how many people, in whatever peak of success they have ever reached in their life, they have listened and they have heard the cries of a world that's waiting to update. That is it. That we are not human beings. We are advanced communications of a universal event. We are cosmic poetry in the making, you know? And someone listening to this would be like, yo, Mr.Within, am I cosmic poetry right now? I feel we will get to a point. Right now we're thinking about how to design cities. And you think we're not going to think about designing planet-sized cities? There we go. The inspiration that we have from our planet, it's like, I remember there's this book, I mean, to be honest, it's not published yet, but the book is called, I called it Godlike Spheres. And in the book, I'm like, why is this spherical relationship of light from the sun, from one orb coming to your eyes, into another? It's as if the orbs are speaking and man is the hallucination between a sort of geometrical relationship. In my science fiction, I spoke about planetary design in the sense of cyberspace. I felt that, out of curiosity, how many people listening now would like to hear the sci-fi chapter, the science fiction chapter of the uh, of this novel I've written. Okay. There's so many comments. Probably that's why it's stalling and they're not showing in the chat. Think of it this way: to design anything, you gotta have the space for it. No, I don't know how many people have built stuff, but based on the size of what you want to build, you create the space for it. Guys, actually, I'll sum it up the sci-fi thing I wanted to say. Pretty much in a chapter called The Ocean on the Mountain Peak, um, the main character and his robotic shamanic friend are walking up to this mountain, and the reason the shamanic robotic friend has decided this, has brought this man is because they're looking for this programmer who created this program called HH. HH. And this is a cyberspace simulation where millions of people are literally stuck in heaven and hell. It's a cyberspace heaven and hell where millions of people are stuck in. And so the whole point of that chapter is the main character's name is Rasul, they're going on top of this mountain peak to go and find this hacker who people feel this programmer has gone inside on the top of the mountain peak, there's a whirlpool who's gone inside the whirlpool. Anyways, it was this idea of designing a world inside a world. But it's cyberspace. Now, I would say cyberspace is a method. We built a world inside a world. I would say art is just simple drawing is a method. And I would say after that, I would say language. Language is the world inside the world. You know, it's like you look at the physical sensory limitations, and then it's like it's a copy paste of your physical reality, but with the malleability factor of your inner realms. That means the inner realms provide this ability that when you have an emotion, you don't just see what's in front of you. What does that mean? That means people don't notice it, but when there is pain, sometimes there is snaps of the inner realm. That means there's been times where, for example, fire has burnt my hand, and I've had memories, I sometimes call them instant memories. Instant memory, a memory arose with the pain. It was like you know how you press a piano finger? What am I saying? When you put your finger on a piano key? when you put your finger on a piano key, there's the sound of it right there. Okay, there's the physical sensation and the sound. And it's like when there's an experience of anything, if you touch your hand, I don't know how sensitive people are to their inner realms, but when I look at something or there's any sensation, any sort of subtle shift to the physiology, the psychology, there's a shift too. Guys, I'm going to do something very interesting. I'm going to put options of 3 sci-fi narratives of my own work that I feel like sharing, the audience can choose one of the three options. Okay, so guys, I've put three numbers with three names. Just out of curiosity, I want to see people are drawn to which number. These are three concepts from my science fiction that relate to the topic in some way. Okay. So Kubetra. Guys, I'm starting to think like I should start a channel for my science fiction because these stories can get really long. But Kubetra, Lord Kubetra, is a figure from this short story I wrote called Project Adam and Eve. I wrote this in 2017. I think I wrote it 2017. And it's a short story where I put it for a contest, for a story writing contest, but I think there was issues with the editing. So, anyways, Lord Kubetra is a figure from like 3/4 into the short story of Project Adam and Eve. Long story short, Earth is about to be destroyed, and 4 human beings have been transformed into robotic bodies. Their consciousness, their soul, somehow with advanced technology, has been put into robotic bodies, and they are taking the last Adam and Eve, which are these 2 children in this kind of like frozen thing, capsule, and they're trying to find a new Earth to continue humanity. Do you know? And so it's these 4 robots with human consciousness who are doing this. Now, in this point where they come to the whole Kubetra section, I'll tell you, this is where 2 of the robots have already died from 2 intense events. So this part the audience won't know. And the robots, once they go into the machine, they come from with different colors, and there are 4 of them, and there's blue, there's red, there's green, and there's yellow. Green and yellow are females, but they're all robots technically at this point. But before they were females, and they were generals, part of this kind of like secret human, backup program, and human extinction backup program. And so what's happening in this section is that yellow and green have died. Now blue is the main captain, and blue and red have remained, and for thousands of years they have journeyed in space. And because they're robots, they're kind of immortal. At most, they act like they sleep, but they never sleep. Their attention just leaves their robotic suit, and they go roam outer space, And so what happens is that they're in this ship, and they suddenly see this asteroid storm appear out of nowhere in space. And when they notice this asteroid storm, they have no choice, and they look behind them and they see a giant cube. A giant black cube in space has appeared. The top corner of the black cube is open. So I want you to imagine as if a black cube cake, and then we got a knife and we cut one corner of it from an angle. So the corner of the black cube is open. And so red looks at blue and says, what do we do? And blue says, we have no choice. We're going to get crushed by this random asteroids that appeared out of nowhere, So they go inside this cube. Now, when they go inside this cube from outer space, they appear in orange clouds. That's how I designed the world. They appear in orange clouds inside this giant black cube in space. And, sorry guys, just a second. Okay. So to continue, if you're new and you just tuned into the talk, I have no idea how to catch you up. But anyways, so blue and red, these 2 robots, where they have human souls in the sci-fi story I've written, and so their ship goes inside. They find themselves in these orange clouds. The ship comes down, and as the ship comes down and lands somewhere, as they're landing, they see this strange Egyptian-like civilization, but instead of pyramids, they're all cubes. It's all cube-like pyramids. Do you know? And there are these black cubes floating everywhere, and it's as if these black cubes have enslaved this bird species. This bird species where the way I saw it in my intervals was that the bird is white. It's kind of like it looks like a human being, but it has its hands are bird wings, and it has a beak, and it's like human size, but like in fusion with a bird or whatever, right? So imagine an eagle humanoid or something, you know. And so they've enslaved this eagle humanoid species, and so these poor eagle humanoid species creatures are with their noses pushing. Their wings have been closed, and they're just pushing with their heads these giant stones, like the slaves in Egypt during the Pharaoh times, you know. And so red and blue, their ship lands, and Adam and Eve, they're in that frozen chamber inside the thing. And so they immediately make the ship invisible, and they leave. And as they walk, they see this cube appear. Sorry, they don't make the ship invisible. The ship is there. The person comes out, blue is inside, a bit hesitant, gets an eerie, strange feeling. Red, this robot goes out, and he connects a wire from his hand. Remember, they're in robot bodies, their consciousness, their human consciousness. And he connects a thing to the cube, to the black cube. And the cube suddenly starts speaking English to them. And all the cubes start speaking English to them, as if they're all being broadcast from the same place. You know? So the cubes, when they speak, even though they look like separate cubes, it feels like one. They're all like speakers simultaneously, but they're these intelligent black cubes. And so blue and red are advanced robots, like they have jetpacks, but the way I wrote the scene is they step out, and the cubes say, this world belongs to Lord Cubetra. We're all Lord Cubetra's servants. Lord Cubetra wants to see you. Lord Cubetra, whoever that is. Now a giant black cube from underneath, red and blue, appears, and the ship is just locked down in there. I don't know how I wrote it, if the ship goes stealth or not, to be honest. But so what happens is this black cube comes from underneath the soil, and it becomes like this platform, levitating platform, and both of them are on it, and as they're walking. And I don't know, red and blue says, I don't have a good feeling about this. Red is like, whatever, let's go see who this Lord Cubetra is, you know. And so what happens is, I remember I told you the pyramids were cubes. So the top of the pyramids in the cube, there is an opening. And so this cube that's taking red and blue, these two robots, he takes them inside to this majestic giant, like inside the cube, it's strange, it's empty. Do you know, and the top of the walls of the cube are closed, so it's like a box. And there's this throne room, and the thing lands and goes into the ground, and so what's his name? Red and blue are there standing, and then the cubes are like, we welcome to Lord Cubetra's palace. Do you know Lord Cubetra will see you now? It's just cubes with like voices, you know? They're big cubes though, okay? Black cubes. So what happens is, there is this black cube, and this black cube looks at him and is sitting on a throne. So I want you to imagine like a Game of Thrones kind of throne, and on it there's this black cube. And when the black cube turns around, they see the most messed up thing. The head of a black eagle. That means all the eagle slaves were white, but it's the head of a black eagle inside this cube. Only the head though. Okay? And that head cube is Lord Cubetra. And Lord Cubetra, I don't remember the exact dialogue, but I remember the emotionally, so I'll tell you as far as I can kind of paint the picture. Red goes to Lord Cubetra, says, we are robots like you. Red goes and says, we're robots like you, and we have to go somewhere, Lord Cubetra, you know, and he's saying we have to go soon. So Red is trying to get out of there, and Blue's just standing there, Okay? And Lord Cubetra gives this speech as if like I am going to conquer the whole universe and robots will conquer everything and Lord Cubetra will be the only word and all this. So he has like this tyrant complex to him, this black eagle head in a cube, you know? And what happens is there's more dialogue. I don't remember exactly. Lord Cubetra says you can't leave. And so there's a situation where Red says we have to leave, something's becoming intense, okay? Then Lord Cubetra suddenly says, looks at Blue, he doesn't like Red. He looks at Blue and says, do you want to play a game? He says, play a game with me and I'll let you go, let you be free, okay? And so Red stands up to play the game, Red stands up to play the game. Lord Cubetra says, only you gotta play a game with me like a child. He suddenly becomes, guys, I don't remember the exact wording, but the whole point is Lord Cubetra's there, he's telling them you can't leave, and then it's under a condition he allows them to leave, and he says you have to play a game with me. And so Red goes to play, because Blue is kind of like the commander in the whole situation, and so the Lord Cubetra says, no, I want to play with the Blue robot, okay? And so what happens is Lord Cubetra says to the cubes, escort the red robot to a building, show him building 2 or something. I don't remember what building, says something like that. Blue goes into this machine that arises where Lord Cubetra goes on one side and Blue goes on one side, and the game, poetically as a writer, I chose something that's like resembles Tetris. So at the end of this game, and so the game says something like 5 minutes, I don't know, some short period of time, and they're playing this. So remember the scene. Lord Cubetra, that eagle head cube guy, has gone into this gaming booth with Blue the robot, and Red is by the other cubes being escorted to this building. You know, while they play this game. And if Blue wins that game, they're free to go. Now what happens is they play this game and it's very easy, and strangely the Lord Cubetra is not good in the game, and Blue wins. Blue wins, and Blue, in the story I write, it was a game resembling when Blue was a human on Earth and his child would play a game like this, you know? Now check this out. This part, it gets good, guys. This is the part of the chapter that gets really good. Blue wins the game. Lord Cubetra is frustrated. And it's been like a short period, like 30 minutes. Suddenly, the moment they step out of the gaming booth, you see Red, the robot Red, just with his hands grab Lord Cubetra's head and crush it. So imagine Blue wins the game, they're free to go. But the moment they step out of the gaming booth, Red crushes the cube, Lord Cubetra. He kills Lord Cubetra. Blue runs to Red and says, Red, I won the game, we were free to go. Red just goes silently, sits on the throne where Lord Cubetra was, puts his hand on his forehead and is quiet. Blue suddenly notices Red's armor, the robot body, is old and scarred and messed up, and Red is just quiet. And Blue goes to Red and says, what's going on? What the fuck happened? And Red says to Blue, in that 5 minutes you were in there playing a video game, it was 2,000 years on this side. And so they had taken Red to the slaves, and they had made Red a slave pushing giant boulders for 1,000 years. And Red had managed to somehow communicate with the bird rebellion, create a rebellion, and the moment Blue was coming out of the machine, it was the result of like 2,000 years of rebellion. And Red just killed Cubetra, and all the cubes just fall down at that moment. Now, Blue says, let's just get the fuck out of here. And they have this brotherly camaraderie and whatnot. Like imagine seeing your brother get hurt. You know what I mean? Like that kind of blues, like if blue is like shocked silent. Now this scene is intense because in this story, I remember I told you there were four, two of them gone. This chapter, Lord Cubetra's chapter, is the one, it's not actually a chapter, the whole thing is a short story, but Lord Cubetra's section is where Red dies. Now look at what happens. Red snaps out and Blue says, let's get out of here, Red. Instantly, they have jetpacks. They fly out of the cube. They go outside, and in the air, all the bird slaves have been freed. And Red, he's an advanced robot. He's managed to create some sort of language to speak to them. So Red can speak their language. Okay? And so, suddenly there's this debate, and these birds are saying something, and Red is saying something to them, and Red gets angry, and Red starts cursing in English, and Blue's like, what are they saying? Red is tells Blue, run to the ship. These birds are saying, all robots must die. So Red freed all the birds, but all the birds they've been so under such messed up chaos that they're like, all robots must die. They don't want any robots in their world. You know, and remember, Cubetra and all the cubes are dead at this point. You know? Now, the next scene is intense. The next scene is intense because there's this scene where Red says to Blue, go, and I'm going to stay and fight these. And Blue says, fuck it, let's just go to the ship. Run to the ship. So they are with their jetpacks going, and it's just this scene. And remember, Red his psychology is different and tired. Okay? So what happens, I was just seeing it like a movie in my inner realms when I was writing this. So what is the next scene? This Red and Blue robot, they're flying towards the ship. You see from the sky storms, these white spirals, which are all these freed birds chasing them. And there's a scene where they're both flying and suddenly there's a collision. Suddenly there is a collision, they fall down, they're advanced robots though, I mean the storyteller has their back. So they have these chainsaw swords that stand out of their hands. So the next scene, you just see these two robots fall on the ground and their chainsaw swords come around, and these birds, who for years, they've been using their beak to push things, they have incredible strength in their beaks. And these robots are incredibly advanced, like incredibly strong, like material is used for them, right, to build them, right? They were pretty much humanity's greatest technological achievement before the world died, you know? Now, what happens is, the scene is they've fallen onto the ground, and I forgot to mention, the ground is with sand. I forgot to mention that. I mean, when I said Egypt, I think people got the idea. You know, I don't remember what color I said for the sand. Anyways, these two robots are in the ground, and in my mind, like from a director's perspective, I was just seeing like these chainsaw sounds. And these Red and Blue robots are just like endless birds are just crashing into them. Now here's the scene. They've gotten close to the ship. Okay? And there's a point where the door, I don't know if I remember correctly, where the door of the ship is open and they're running and they've been hit by these birds. Blue, the commander, suddenly Red hears one of the chainsaws of Blue no longer there. And he sees Blue, one of his hands has been cut off by the birds. Has been torn off by the birds. In that scene, because you don't know, Blue is a very important figure in the whole story, you know? And so what happens is Red gets this crazy, like, frenzy, this, like, last stand mode. He throws Blue into the ship, closes the door of the ship, and goes on this last stand where you see just Blue just sees all the birds crash onto Red, but Red's gone, like, mad and just fighting. Red dies, but the ship starts flying into the air. Blue is alone now, just with the chamber that holds out underneath. As they are flying towards the top of the cube, these birds, remember I told you they move rocks? Their beaks are so heavy, their beaks are creating dents in the ship. And the ship even has this alarm thing. And it's just this ship going far towards the corner of the cube where it just shows outer space. Do you know? And Blue gets out. And the moment he gets out, the cube has vanished, the asteroid storm has vanished. And Red is not there. And that's Red's story. And then there's the last chapter of it, the finishing, where it's Blue. What happens to Blue? And that chapter I'm not going to share tonight. But that was Cubetra's story. You know? Yeah. Guys, I'm telling you, it's nice writing in life. You know? You capture infusions of various emotions and memories for a phenomenon, an image. The ending is incredible, though. Out of curiosity, would people be interested in hearing the ending? Okay, it's too big of a chapter anyways. Let's get back to solar life broadcasting strategies. I could totally see a boardroom of aliens being like, alright, so what are we going to broadcast from the sun? Oh man, we have to prepare for so much multidimensionality, it's unfathomable. Our inner realms are way more advanced than our outer realms, that's for sure. The inner realms are the future's blueprints. Usually they hold the future's blueprint. I think human beings will think of planets as homes, and so there is an interior design and an exterior design. That means, like, I'm thinking if we were like a planet is the again the unconscious process of the cosmological landscape. But I'm saying if human beings were so advanced that they were to build a planet, we would have to think of it as if like the outer appearance of a house and the interior design of the planet. Because we are consciously designing a planet. Like literally imagine we could create a planet. We could imagine. Okay? But let's think if we could, how would we design it? And that's kind of like where I wanted to take this talk. And I've thought about this in different ways. I've thought about this concept of if we were to create a new Earth, would we create an inner Earth? And what would the value of an inner Earth be? Would we create an Earth where from the center of the Earth, people suddenly understand there's greater levels? Do we create a sort of inner ascension process to the outside of the planet? You know, there's various ways, of course, but I think it's a cool idea. I think young children should think about how they would design planets. You know, I there's something so beautiful about music that it doesn't matter. Once you know the notes, you could play it on any piano. You know? So it doesn't matter what piano it is. And I feel imagine there's our civilization, and imagine there's so many stars and planets out there in the world that it's like there's other civilizations, and I feel we all can hear a common melody of how life opens its eyes in it's like there's light in your eyes right now. And this light echoes as memory. And where does it echo? I would say a planet, we should create pretty much a planet like a Russian doll. When one surface of the planet messes up, that surface of the planet just breaks off. You know, when civilizations mess up on that surface, it's like, all right, let's eject, you know. And then the seconds. Can you imagine? Can you imagine an alien civilization wanting to conquer our planet and being like, what the fuck? There's like endless inner dimensions to the planet. You know, there's endless inner Earths. They conquer the outer of the Earth, the inside of the Earth, the inside of the Earth, and they'll be like, oh my god, how many inner Earths are there inside this Earth? Imagine. Here's this idea I want to share with you. Let me find a picture for it. Okay, guys, I can't find this picture, unfortunately. It was this picture showing the different ways a city can be designed with the significance of where it's placed, you know? Where the center is the powerhouse, and as it goes more outwards, then the power is different, you know? It's as if the center of the intelligence shields itself with worlds. It's as if the soul was cold, so it needed a blanket and it incarnated. I feel light is a language that is a precondition to a language that ascribes subjective significance to objects. You see that it's a very complex question to wonder, what can this attention really do here? As if, what can you do in the void? That is how deep the question is. And because we have a design as a creature, there's this idea that it's pretty much has to do with the implementation of the design. That means I think the healthiest view that people should see is that their DNA is a missing puzzle piece to something. If the mind is comprehended as space, the inner phenomena of the mind is not, you don't fear it. You know, I don't know how many people, you know, it's like whoever you are, I think it's humbling that at some point through the day, you just go sit on the grass. You could be like a billionaire. Go sit on the grass. Go sit. That means you don't know, but I have this mentality that there's times where I feel, I don't know, anytime I have felt a sort of, let's say, guilt or inefficient regret or something, regret of an inefficient moment, anytime my own psychology has appeared for me too complex to use, I let go. Do you know what I mean? That means it's like when you can't see what you're doing, you stop for a moment. Then you attempt to look again. Then you attempt to look again. Then the rhythm finds you. And that is the nature of the world. Those who endure, if one thing could be told to the human being is wonder about endless endurance. Wonder about the possibility of something being so important that all the pain and suffering and the lack and the stress of your life goes away because the joy of selfhood has become the service of the collective. This means that you have always had an opportunity to leave any environment you have ever been. But the reason people stay is because we are animate creatures. And as I was saying, our psychology is event-oriented. We want an updated event. That means an advanced civilization would be a civilization celebrating 24/7. Celebrating what? The emergence of conscious events. Because when we see a human being, when we see a child that is born, people have no idea, but it's fascinating. It's like when you look at children being born in a hospital, you're like, oh my God. Like, look at how many consumers there are going to be in the future. You look at it and you're like, look at how many different walks of life will occur. And as I speak, how many people are being born. And the fascinating thing is, it is really a journey. This is why happiness, at best, I think Matsuo Basho, the Zen master, he was on point. You know, he said, the journey itself is my home. The journey itself is my home. So even if we create the greatest planet or we do the greatest things, it is how we are living which has a value regardless of how the doership is painted. I'm telling you, it's like we're reaching a point where I feel we have been like a slingshot held back. And pretty much many freedoms are self-denied, and once that self-denial leaves, the ability arises. That means if you want to build an advanced civilization, you require advanced builders, pretty much, right? And an advanced builder would be able to perceive something and see how far the additional dimensions can go. That means it's like, I think all of knowledge at its core comes down to perception, to sight and attention. For me, the world, this is strange to say, but really on a very personal level, I just feel I don't know how to say it. In the conscious waking state, it's as if you've come here to assist nature. Do you know? It's like the eyes of the human being has access to extraction of various relationships from the environment that many creatures don't have that ability. And you know, it's like we're the most advanced species on this planet, and there's people in this species thinking they're stupid. You know, and of course there is various actions on different levels, but I'm saying, as long as, if the person has an ability to walk, you have an ability to see so many things. It's good coffee. It's good warm coffee. Okay, let's skip this. Let me see if I can surprise myself here. So when I think about design and when I think about a planet, I know that the perception that I am on a planet is the design of a state of mind. So I can say a design process, which is, because it is movement oriented, it is not form based. Okay? So we have this view that a form moves in space, but we should also have this ability to perceive a movement before the form. And this movement is potentially not even comprehensible to the form. You know? It's like many days I've looked at myself in the mirror only to realize that I have never been able to see the shape of my mind. So if we are creatures that we think we have minds, and we're all going like, we want peace of mind, we have minds, you know. It's like there's brilliant minds in civilization, but what is the shape of this mind? Is its shape limited to where your attention goes? Is its shape limited to the coagulation of every experience and memory formed? Is its shape limited to how you envision the smudges of the mirror of the future vibe? Like, how do you perceive? What does it really mean to be a human being? What does it mean really to be a being? Could the implication of just being mean that there is no separation for there to be an individual? Could it be that one day we realize that our consciousness is not just limited to a biological body? People are going to realize they can move other robots with their minds, other robotic bodies with their minds. What would that mean? Wouldn't that suggest a sort of archaic revival of the non-dual? Psychology is reaching a point where, here, let me tell you what I feel is going to happen on this planet. I feel right now we're in the pioneering stage. We're all super lucky. Like, it's as if it's like anybody listening right now to this talk. We have, all human beings alive right now, we have the front row seat of the roller coaster of how a civilization, especially in the next 30 years, until the year 2050, is going to identify not with language. You see, if you, let's say we created a machine so complex that the machine, when a person was dreaming, you could go into their dream, but the machine was so complex that in the person's dream, let's say you appeared as a sphere only, and this talking sphere in the person's dream. So a person is sitting, let's say a materialist is sleeping and is having a dream, and some advanced technology is connected, let's say, to the brain of this materialist, and inside the dream, and a scientist is speaking from outside the dream to the person inside the dream. Okay? And so it's a dream state. So the materialist is awoke consciously as a point, as a presence of attention in the dream state, and imagine a scientist is speaking to this person, this materialist in the dream state. Now, what happens? The scientist says to the materialist, imagine, uh, right now, are you made of matter? And the materialist in the dream, he's like, this is a dream, I can't be made of matter. Do you know? And then, uh, what I mean by that is in the experience of the dream. What I'm saying is it's like, it's a fascinating experience. It's pretty much lucid dreaming that has been infused with consciousness, so that means lucid dreaming is going to become super easy for people in the future, probably. As the veil between the conscious state and the dream state potentially may become more transparent. That means we don't know if those icebergs are going to melt or not, but if they do, the inseparability of dream and reality again is going to become a huge focus point. I'm just saying that when you are dreaming, your mind is creating your body. When you wake up in the conscious waking stage, there is no other experiential explanation other than the body being there before the mind. Because if you were a mind without a body, there would be never a question of a body. It's that you are a body and we've noticed there's something more, and we are calling it a mind. So human beings have to realize we are the rarest creatures on this planet, and we are the greatest mystery. That means when you look at it, I mean, like animals, I mean, of course you can pet a puppy as much as you want, but when it comes to evolutionary biology, we don't study puppies. You know, there's it's strange. We just have to find a strategy where there is enough space for the inner realms to move and enough space for the outer realms to breathe. It has to do with strategy, of course. You know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to go into a quote tunnel of Sun Tzu. Art of War. Let's do this. It's, 4 a.m. kind of Art of War time. Alright guys, get ready for this. So let me first tell you who Sun Tzu was. That's probably important. So a quote tunnel is a segment of this show, guys, where I just read a bunch of quotes from a person in history just to see how their inner realms was approaching the world. And so this is who Sun Tzu was. Sun Tzu was a Chinese general, military strategist, writer, and philosopher who lived in the Eastern Tzu period of ancient China. Sun Tzu is traditionally credited as the author of The Art of War, an influential work of military strategy that has affected both Western and Eastern Asian philosophy and military thinking. That means this is a book that has a philosophical component, but of course, it's a book for the tactician's mind. This is this picture I'm gonna put for you. It's a modern adaptation of Sun Chang Tzu. Like somebody drew just a more modern way of his archaic painting. This is Sun Tzu from The Art of War. Alright guys, I'm just going to read the quotes for you. Let's get into the quote tunnel. Sun Tzu says victory comes from finding opportunities in problems. Guys, that is so crucial. The same in regards to Da Vinci speaking about the polymath mind, it's the same. It's the victory of your vision in regards to different fields of knowing. Sun Tzu says, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Sun Tzu says, let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Wow. Sun Tzu says, if your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. You see, guys, there's something Sun Tzu says. I haven't read the quote yet, but he says the art of war is all about deception. What does that mean? That means you got to think about it the same way as where people would hunt animals. Animals would deceive, right? So human beings are animals with brains and minds and a certain awareness, so they still will hunt each other. Do you see? So that strategy is in some sense from back in the day where it was more medieval and kingdoms and were war, emperors were fighting and whatnot. Emperors' egos were destroying lives. See, it's all about kind of same thing in chess, where sometimes you make a move, so your opponent takes the bait. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, let's see what other quotes there are. Sun Tzu says, a leader leads by example, not by force. Sun Tzu says, can you imagine what I would do if I could do all I can? Sun Tzu says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So this is an important idea, because if we just take the idea of battle and just look at daily living, and let's say instead of enemy, we see it as a problem or an obstacle or a challenge. So if you know the problem and you know yourself and you don't feel the result of your effort, if you know yourself, you don't need to fear the result of 100 battles if you know the problem and you know yourself. If you know yourself but you don't know the problem, he says for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. Yeah, because that moment you suddenly get to know the enemy as a defeat, because you lose to get that information. And then he says if you know neither nor yourself or the enemy, you will succumb in every battle. Yeah. Sun Tzu, I read that. He says supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Sun Tzu says to know your enemy, you must become your enemy. Sun Tzu says you have to believe in yourself. Thanks, Grandma. Sun Tzu says regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look on them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death. Yeah, that's the bond of humanhood. That once we really care, we take care of each other's blind spots, and then a great force occurs. Sun Tzu says it is only the enlightened ruler and the wise general who will use the highest intelligence of the army for the purposes of spying, and thereby they achieve great results. Sure. I mean, this is a book on militaristic strategy and war. The book's called Art of War, so there's that kind of idea. But Sun Tzu says all warfare is based on deception. Here we go. He says all warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Yeah, you could see that, like, you make the enemy army, like, you want to ambush the enemy army, so you got to make them feel like you're far away so you can ambush them. I mean, it's like Sun Tzu's just going over the basics here. Basics of ancient war. Sun Tzu says, engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirms their projections. Engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirms their projections. Oh, interesting. So he's saying when you communicate with people, go with their expectation, because they are able to work with their expectation. And it confirms their own projections. It settles them into predictable patterns of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment, that which they cannot anticipate. Oh my God, Sun Tzu, this guy was like, what is he like? That X-Men girl who goes through the walls? Like, I think Sun Tzu, Assassin's Creed the video games could be based on this guy. Sun Tzu says, if your enemy is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. If your opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. If sovereign and subject are in accord, put division between them. What does that mean? That means a tactic of the general conquering the other general's army is to create a discord between the general and his army. You know? Sun Tzu finishes that off and says, attack him where he is unprepared, appear where you're not expected. Yeah, I mean, guys, let me see if there's more wisdom in this. Know thyself, know thy enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Sun Tzu says, to fight and conquer in all our battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. How many adaptations of this quote are there in this? Sun Tzu says, quickness is the essence of war. I would say that quickness has to do with alertness, being information of the event before your meaning. That means some people can see something before they interpret it, and that is an advantage. That's pretty much the value of concentration. Sun Tzu says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So. Sun Tzu says, opportunities multiply as they are seized. This is just generally for life. Yeah, guys, sometimes I've termed it like this. It's like throughout the day when I've had a unique thought and I was like, okay, I gotta write this down, or I'm never gonna probably think of this again. Do you know? And so it's as if when I seize that moment and I write that thought, it opens up space for a different texture of a new thought, either an extension or a totally new thought. Sun Tzu says there are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can be ever tasted. And this is not the full quote, man. This guy's probably not sharing the full quote. Sun Tzu says, when strong, avoid them. If of high morale, depress them. Seem humble to fill them with conceit. If at ease, exhaust them. If united, separate them. Attack their weaknesses, emerge to their surprise. Yeah, this attack their weaknesses, that's pretty much the basic tactic in war, guys. That's it. It's like people don't realize how educational just the idea of the mythological idea of Achilles' heel is, you know, that any system has a weakness, yet if one has to, before breaking any system, wonder about how long did it take for that system to get there, because a person can't break something big without getting rid of certain things that should have probably not been broken, you know. Sun Tzu says he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. This is so true, you know? And if you're smart in this life, I feel that you will move towards advancing the mind of the civilization. That means like if you wanted violence, like that means if you had a time machine, you'd probably go back in evolution, you know, if you wanted to be violent. Sun Tzu says invincibility lies in the defense. The possibility of victory in the attack. What an incredible sentence. Wow. I'm just learning lifetimes from just... Invincibility lies in the defense. The possibility of victory in the attack. Alright guys, I'm going to read just 2 more quotes and I'm going to end it off. Sun Tzu says, if the mind is willing, the flesh could go on and on without many things. Okay. Oh yeah, that means your what's important for you has a pull that surpasses any, even pain perhaps, the mind's vision. Sun Tzu says, be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby you can be the director of the opponent's fate. Holy shit. You know, this man is... I can totally see why he wrote The Art of War. Alright, let's see. He says strategy without tactics. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. So strategy is the direction, tactics is the implementation. So the strategy is the battle plan, tactics is how you implement the battle plan. So he's saying if you have a plan but you don't have an implementation of it, if you have a strategy but you don't have the tactical implementation, then that's the slowest way to become victorious. That means, and it makes sense because you have a strategy, you know where you want to get, but you don't know how to get there. So there's going to be a lot of mistakes where it makes it the slowest route. Then Sun Tzu says tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. That means if you know how to do so, let me tell you why. Because tactics without strategy means you're like a skilled warrior, but you have no idea who to fight or what to fight. So you don't know how to allocate the attention, maybe. You may be skilled, but you don't know, you know, there's different people. I feel as the person gets older, They are trying to focus in doing single concentrated actions. So I feel senior citizens should work still. I feel human beings should work, but they should work in a much more easier sort of way. Do you know? And now that everything's becoming digital, there's so many ways. I think the sort of somebody was doing this where it was like people in a senior home in America were teaching like children in the Philippines how to speak English. You know, and so it was like it was a very efficient activity. You don't know, technology has really been a blessing, regardless of, even though it may make us extinct. But I'm saying it's still, like, for now at least, it's. Anyways, let's read a few more quotes. Sun Tzu says, if victory usually goes to the army who has better trained officers and men. And you know what better training means? That means the people can see what's important. That's it. That means, if it's like, for me, when I think about various job interviews I've been, and like situations where I could say, as an employee, even someone like trying to run a business, I would say, it's as if you just want to see if the person understands why you are coming to work as the employer. And if the person understands why and lives for that purpose, then it's like there's a sort of honorable dimension to that. Sun Tzu says, the opportunity to secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. That means the solution to the problem is provided by the problem itself, as you perceive different angles of the different dimensions of the phenomenon. It's too quiet in the chat section, guys. I'm starting to freak out now. Sun Tzu says, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Sun Tzu says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Wow. It's very true. But I think when he says victorious warriors win first and then go to war, that means the victorious warrior has seen something more and then is going to war. That means information allocation is on the victor's side. That means the winner was the one who did better research of the situation. Sun Tzu says, the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Yup. Sun Tzu says the greatest advice to any politician listening: there is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. That means if the like, think about it. It's like if there is the strategy of militaries should be their own extinction. That we create a world so civilized and intelligent and advanced enough that we're not busy destroying each other when we need every mind to help solve these problems that eventually are going to go in front of the eyes of the global community. Right now, we just have to build the Colosseum where the greatest discussions and greatest conversations will be had. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just like a early bird trying to create footing for certain conversations to occur in society. Because why does the writer write? Because the world has dared to speak another way. Sun Tzu says, even the finest sword plunged into salt water will eventually rust. Yes, time dulls all blades. Sun Tzu says, move swift as the wind, and closely formed as the wood. Attack like the fire, and be still as the mountain. What an incredible sentence. Be still as the mountain. That's just... Alright guys, let's see one more quote and Sun Tzu says, so in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. Interesting. So that means in the battlefields, the wise warriors were killing all the weak ones. This is war, guys. This book was written like, I don't know, like what is it, like 1,000 years ago? So 1,000 years ago. Like Lao Tzu could be this guy's cousin. Probably not, but So you see, this is such an important quote. I'm going to share it because when it says, so in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. Think of, instead of war, problems in life or challenges or anything, any sort of puzzle placed in front of you, through perception. So it says, so in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. So think of it right now. You want to win this war of your life, So you have to look at the easiest problems you can solve. You have to try, I feel this is an interesting way to interpret Sun Tzu, where the person looks at all the problems in their life and they want to be successful in this war. They want to get through all the obstacles. So you look at what are the easy obstacles that you could get through. So you get through all the easy obstacles and you keep leveling up. So that means the human mind's greatest ability is to be in any situation or moment and simply just slow down for a second, reduce the complexity of that design to a simplicity that is manageable, and then function. Now, this is Sun Tzu's giving a medieval example of it. Like when I say medieval, like savage. I mean, Sun Tzu says, it is easy to love your friend, but sometimes the hardest lesson to learn is to love your enemy. The way I can see, at least for me, I'm pretty sure other people are seeing different dimensions to this quote. The way this is profound is that he's saying it's easy to love your friend, But sometimes the hardest lesson to learn is to love your enemy. So that could be a situation where he's about to lose, and so he's going on the enemy's side instead of death. That could be a situation like that. It could be a situation where you just learn that that enemy could be like your friend, so it's not an enemy. It's just confused human beings fighting over resources, you know? So in that way, you don't start war, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's various ways this quote can go. Anyways, guys, I'll end the quote tunnel there. Actually, no, let me read one more. Sun Tzu says, there are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. Wait a minute. Commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. Yeah, he's talking about the unknown variables in reality. So commands of the sovereign, that means the king's orders you shouldn't listen to. Sun Tzu says this last quote I'm probably going to share from him. He says, thus, the expert in battle moves the enemy and is not moved by him. Wow. This is the essence of strategy, guys. This simple sentence holds history, a history of wisdom in it. Alright, so what can I say before I go to Q&A? If we were to design a planet, we would have to, again, wonder about the meaning of phenomena. There was one day I remember I was in Iran in 2016, and I was sitting at a table and I fathomed in front of me if there was a sphere and if there were ants on that sphere, and if those ants suddenly became conscious, how much would they even notice? How much would they see that they're right there in the kitchen in my imagination? You know what I mean? So there was this sort of notion of the planet's design is our subconscious it's a subconscious influence. I don't know how to say it though. It's kind of like the design is a dynamism. So if we look at the word planet design and we look at the word life or human being, the design part is an event. It's animate. We're animate, intelligent creatures. So I would say that's the being part, and the planet has to do with the human image. That means many of us don't realize it, but our most favorite shape is a sphere. At least if we like it here on Earth, you know. For me, spheres are the most divine shapes. They're in, you know what I mean? Like the sphere is the most divine shape of them all. The sphere has no corner. It's a state of mind that is infinite in regards to degree. That means you can endlessly circle your perception in this realm. So anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. This idea that suns in the future can be used as broadcasting mechanisms for intelligent life. Like it's highly probable an alien civilization would use the sun as a broadcast to broadcast life through light. You know, technically, right now it's like, is light being me or am I being light? I can't tell, guys. You know, this very moment of visual perception. Anyways, guys, I want to open it up to Q&A. Thanks for tuning in. Anyone who's listening, who's listened so far, the talk component's done. This sense of Q&A, I get a feeling from my inner realms to do it. So it doesn't matter if people have questions or not. If you do, you can share. Let's go. And thanks for tuning in again. You know, you have heard what this corner of the universe has said. Now wonder about what the corner of your universe will say. Wonder about how far that your eyes will go and how far they will move the eyes of the civilization. Really, at the end, we're our own poetry. Alright, guys, actually, I'm feeling slightly sleepy. I'm just gonna read this poem I wrote in 2016 and end the talk, okay? You know, on some level, from my angle, these talks are like digital canvases where the voice can be used as a brush. Um, it's like my digital notepad, to be honest. Like a sort of digital notepad. So this is from a poetry work I wrote in 2016, let's say, Endless Roads. Yeah, 2016. The poem is called Your Divine Remembrance. Alright, guys, Your Divine Remembrance. Who seeks the truth when the truth seeker has become emptiness on a rock in emptiness? We all want doors that revolve around us. Why are the broken trying to fix up all that they see? Life has brought us to our end so we can comprehend our beginning. Sometimes words write themselves into worlds more transcendent than names. Have you realized you are your divine remembrance? Anyways, guys, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Someone once told me, a friend of mine, she said something very influential. I asked her a question, she said, all answers come from within. And it was a very, very great answer. There's something more to the human being than just atoms hovering, hallucinating humanhood, hallucinating personality. We are like a song that is alive and aware of itself. That is the wonder of the mind. Anyways, blessings.